So we have an actual literal miracle today. Yes, Oblivion Remastered is getting updates, actually 2 updates, and we're going to go over the patch notes for update 1 and what is changing here. Some actually good news about this one, and we're going to dive into, yes, The Witcher 4. We have to talk about this one. The tech demo is out, and by the way, this is a tech demo. I don't care what anyone says. This is definitely what they're trying to accomplish, but we'll see if they get pulled off. But anyway, we have some brand new comments from CD Projekt RED as to what to expect from the evolution of gameplay mechanics. Now, this is the stuff that I want to hear about, so we're going to talk about that as well a little bit later in the video. But let's first dive into what is happening around Oblivion Remastered updates. And yes, guess what? There is an actual Steam beta. We'll talk about that. So let's get into this post right here. So they go on to say this: thanks for your excitement and feedback since the launch of the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. We are actively working on, get this, 2 separate updates to be launched in the coming weeks, both of which will come to our Steam beta first before being released to all other platforms. Now, the first update will be focused on quests, major bugs and blockers, and quality of life fixes. This update will enter the Steam beta tomorrow on June 5th and will be available on all platforms on June 11th. Our second update will focus on performance, and we will share more details when we are able, because people, as I noticed with the comments, were pretty bummed that this first initial update would not include performance improvements, but we will be getting that update eventually. They don't have an exact date for the performance update, but I know a lot of you guys would be mostly curious about that. But what does the first update include? That's the big question. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into those patch notes for update 1.1. And I wanted to highlight one of the most important bits here. Fix for not automatically showing local map when inside interior spaces. So no longer do you have to scroll into the local map when in dungeons. Thank goodness. So that is a very, very important quality of life improvement right there. So yes, that's a very redundant task that is going to be less frustrating. Now, continuing onward, we have enable toggle HUD visibility and show HUD console command. So that's cool. Fix for missing text when installing the deluxe upgrade. Fix skip button not showing correctly during the intro. And then fix for Redguard origin stats being reversed. And then they say this: fix for being unable to name enchanted items when using a controller. That has been such a pain for me personally, so it's good to know that they are addressing that as well. And then they have some minor stuff as well with Chinese translation, localized string fixes, then fix for interacting with Daedric shrines not displaying subtitles. And then they have a bunch of crash fixes here when exploring the Crayfish Cavern, and then fast travel to Valverin has also been addressed, and then when fighting stunted scamps. So a bunch of crash fixes as well, especially with crashes that happen when loading quick saves. That has also been an issue for some people as well. And then maybe you have also had some issues when switching between quality and performance mode. Well, they address some issues there going forward. And there's also been some major bugs around crafting potions, especially if you want to create multiple potions at once using stolen ingredients. That has been addressed as well. And player animations have been kind of all over the place when exploring the world on horseback, while they fixed player animation issues when mounting horses. And they also did mention a bunch of gameplay adjustments, one of them being fixed for Staff of Shoggoth not freezing enemies, which has been a pain in the butt. And they also fixed the light spells not showing the visual effects for that. So no longer do you have to worry about being in a dark dungeon and that not working. And you guys may remember they did actually make some comments about this beforehand under Bethesda support, that yes, they are going to be fixing and addressing that first person camera being set above the player's head, which has been kind of annoying when that happens. Also, when you are diseased, they did address the skin textures not matching that. So when you are infected, we should see some feedback with skin textures. And I gotta say, one of the more annoying issues that I have personally faced with Oblivion Remastered is going in and updating my graphic settings or what have you, and those settings being completely reset every single time I go back into the game. Well, they have also fixed that, as well as infinite loading issues and freezing when pressing Alt-Tab. And for the next screen, you could definitely pause it for yourself. But yeah, we have several fixes for quest lines here. The Battle for Kavash fix Avion from becoming stuck after Castle Courtyard fight, and that's just the beginning of that. But you can pause the screen here to see what has been adjusted. Now, you're probably wondering about that Steam beta version of Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, which you can actually opt into. Here are those instructions. So if you're wondering, hey, Robbie, how in the world do I get involved into this? All you got to do is open up your Steam library and navigate to the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. Then you right-click on Remastered and select Properties. Under Properties, select Betas, and then you'll see a drop-down menu for you to opt into. Select Beta from there, and then wait for app to download, new build, and you are good to go. Launch the Oblivion Remastered beta version, and you can check out these updates before they go officially live. And I think the idea here is for you guys to check it out and give your feedback, so don't be afraid to be vocal about what you like and don't like about the update. So pretty surprised here that we're getting actual updates for Oblivion Remastered. I was getting a little bit worried there. They promised that we would be getting future updates through Bethesda support, but they went completely radio silent there for a while, and I really do wish they would communicate a little bit more often here and keep us in the know a bit more than they have been. That sure would be nice. And a lot of you guys were vocal about what you still want to see change, and I have to highlight this stuff. Check it out. Difficulty slider, I beg you. So yes, still, Adept to Expert feels wrong, at least in my opinion, to this day. Let me know how you guys are feeling about it, but they need some sort of difficulty sliders in the game. Also, this one right here, my life for the ability to remove created spells from my spell list. I imagine that a lot of you guys are experiencing a spell list that is probably pretty cluttered right now, and we need the ability to clean that up. And then also this one, we really need a patch for that crash that happens when you paralyze with Marksman. Good that they fixed the light spell though, so we are definitely on the right track, but by far there's still work needed to be done here. But yeah, I really wanted to take the opportunity here to talk about the Witcher 4 tech demo. I'm going to call it a tech demo because that is what it is. We've been through this before with Cyberpunk, where they revealed the so-called Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay, and that ended up seeing a downgrade. So we'll see what happens here. I think this is what they're aiming for, of course, but CD Projekt RED did have some additional comments with this headline right here. CDPR says, the Kingdom Come style of systems-heavy RPG is super great, and when it comes to the Witcher 4's direction of travel, these are our next steps for sure. This definitely piqued my curiosity, because as many of you know, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is one of my absolute favorite games in recent memories. I adore this game, and I was excited to see that they made comments like this, that they're actually looking to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 for inspiration. But what exactly did CDPR say about this? So I say we get into this and look at him pretending to play the game. But anyway, let's dive into this. So it says, I love Kingdom Come because of the realism and the feeling, the sense of humor, says CDPR. Would he even say a little witchery? And they go on to say this, thank you, before going on to explain how some of the more simulation-y and systems-heavy aspects of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 are the things CD Projekt RED watches with interest, because this is partly the Witcher 4's direction of travel. Ooh, interesting. So they say this, the Kingdom Come kind of simulation, it's great. There's so many options. You can change the world. It's super great. And we would like to keep that. We'd like to follow this trend as well. So these are our next steps for sure. And it's kind of a similar challenge to what we have in The Witcher 3 because of the open world and storytelling here, freedom of choices. But at the same time, we would like to build very fleshy, very well motivated characters. So it's kind of in contradiction from time to time. That's a great design challenge. Now, there's some things that I do hope they ignore from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. They have the great character development, great storytelling. We can see here that obviously they're kind of aiming for that here with The Witcher 4. They already have that established, in my opinion, with The Witcher 3. But when it comes to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 systems, I do think that they could definitely ignore the save system, for example. I don't think that would fit into The Witcher franchise, maybe for like a hardcore mode, but it's very unique to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I know it's also been kind of controversial as well. But yeah, beyond Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, there's one other big game that CD Projekt RED is looking to, but not in the way that you think, and they're actually trying to remain themselves, I guess you would say, really keep the CD Projekt RED DNA alive. Check it out right here. With Larian, the influence is less direct. In Larian's case, it's turn-based, so it's a different kind of game, and the way you interact with characters is totally different. We like to fully build the characters, understand the past and the future of the character motivation. That's why it takes so much time. Now, in Baldur's Gate 3, there are great characters as well, but sometimes your choices, because there's freedom of choices in Larian's work, it pushes you to use different tricks than ours. But I think we observe each other, and there are not that many games like that. So that's natural, yeah. And we see how players react, how fans react to those tactics. Now, if they have a bunch of choice and consequence like Baldur's Gate 3, I'm down for that, but I definitely do not see The Witcher turning into anything turn-based, which is good news. Now, they go on to say this, it's a theme that joint CEO Mikhail Nowalski echoes. Baldur's Gate 3 has clearly impressed an awful lot of people at CD Projekt RED, even if they're conscious that The Witcher is always going to be a different type of RPG. They go on to say the following, I think we're still more in the, we're a big open world, but a lot of what Baldur's Gate 3 showed us was an inspiration. And to be honest, there's no shame in that. I think everybody who launches games nowadays is looking back on what was done before and is looking at what worked and what was great and how and if they can fit into whatever they are doing. So for sure, there was a lot of inspiration in what Baldur's Gate 3 did, but I think we're still more sticking to what was The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk, even if we don't want to just make another game like that, just with better graphics. We do want to innovate in terms of what's available in terms of gameplay and so on. I hope when the time comes, that's going to become clear for the fans as well. So again, that's great that they are sticking to what they know and basically evolving the systems of The Witcher 3 into something better, hopefully. Let's cross my fingers, because I feel like The Witcher 3 combat is still a little bit divisive. Some people say, oh my god, it's the best thing on planet Earth, and then others are like, hey, I didn't care for it too much. So it is most likely going to be very, very real-time based on what we know from The Witcher 3 just evolved. I do wish they had shown it in the tech demo, even though this was called a tech demo. I wanted to see like what they were talking about here in terms of evolution of gameplay, but that's something that is still very much obviously currently in development. But yeah, I just want to provide additional comments here about my take on the Witcher 4 tech demo. This is what they're shooting for. It does clearly state in small text down there that this is not gameplay. This is a tech demo. I am still kind of bummed that they showcased it in this way, because I really do think that we will see some level of a downgrade. Like this type of interaction, if that ends up in the game, I'll be blown away. The NPC interactions were super impressive here, but you guys remember, you cannot forget about what they did with Cyberpunk 2077 in their E3 demo from years back when they showcased a very similar scenario here with tons of NPCs, crowd interactions, and you guys clearly remember how that panned out. So yeah, take this one with a grain of salt. Maybe, just maybe, we'll see a next-gen update to The Witcher 4 when it releases on PlayStation 6, and we'll get graphics that more look like this, but I would be very, very surprised if the base PlayStation 5 looks like this. I will say this though, I do know that it is going to look at the very least very good. So CD Projekt RED, they do make like exceptionally looking games, even though it's probably not going to end up looking like the actual tech demonstration. But again, perhaps in time, with a next-gen update on PlayStation 6, we would see it pan out to look like something like this. But I'm telling you what, I'm keeping my hype levels in check. I'm not getting hurt like that again. But we got to go over your top comments from my most recent Oblivion Remastered video. Remember, as always, I love reading over your comments. You can leave a comment down below. And if you are new, welcome aboard. Join the OWG family by smacking that subscribe button. Let's go over your top comments right now. So we have this one first. So here it is. I don't mind enemies dealing 3 times damage on expert and 6 times on master. What I do mind is the attack nerfs on myself. I'd rather have both me and the enemy do big damage to each other on higher difficulties. That's the problem. It's so weird how they have adjusted the actual numbers behind the scenes from adept to expert. It definitely, absolutely needs to be fine-tuned. It just feels, it feels wrong. But some of you guys are like, hey, chill. I like it. You need to up your defense. It's your problem. You need to learn how to play Oblivion Remastered. But for the most part, from what I'm seeing from the community, a lot of you guys still want some level of difficulty sliders. Now, next up, we have this one. Okay, but can we rebuild Kvatch? A lot of you guys want to see additional new DLC for Oblivion Remastered, and you're kind of looking again to like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is doing some really cool stuff down the road where you could rebuild the blacksmith and area and stuff like that. It would be so badass if we can go back into Oblivion Remastered, have like a whole new quest line, whole new big DLC where rebuilding Kvatch is a thing. All right, what do we got next? Are we getting an update at all, or are we just going to talk about mods? No, we're definitely getting an update. I promise you guys, I'll keep you guys in the know. And yeah, it's actually happening. And you could see, you know, by Bethesda's history and how there's like been a lack of patches for the previous games, how people are. We're never getting an official patch, are we? So I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that we're seeing a change at Bethesda and they actually do some updates to their games. They need dedicated teams to update their games very, very quickly, and also teams that are dedicated to responding to the community on a regular basis. You know, there is a huge audience here that want to see their games fine-tuned, improved going forward. But yeah, there it is. The latest happenings around Oblivion Remastered, and we actually talked about, yes, the next Witcher, which I gotta say, I'm super hyped for it, but again, keeping those hype levels guarded, you know, realistic, because I know how this goes. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.